April 3rd meeting of Parking and Traffic Safety is called to order. Can we take attendance?
Mary Lou McKelwin,
Here.
Jane Mitchell-Pate,
Here.
Mark Siracusa,
Here.
Erica Wagonic,
Here.
Deputy Police Chief Mike Maloney,
Here.
Fire Chief Bill McQuillan,
Here.
Public Works Director Peter Rice,
I am here.
and Jillian Harris on behalf of Stephanie Casella.
Here.
And Chairman Bagley, absent.
In Chairman Bagley's absence, I will be running the meeting. Can we have the financial report?
Sure.
Motion to accept.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The financial report is accepted. Public comment.
Good morning. Tyler Garza, 62 McKinley. I just wanted to correct the minutes from last month. It's 20% of the population that does not drive. You can pull it from the census data. It's typically the young and the old, and it's probably more than 20%. So I just wanted to remind you again in your deliberations to please make driving less of a cakewalk. It benefits those people who cannot drive the most. And when people are riding you and are upset that they can't go over the speed limit, that's actually part of it. It slows everything down in a beneficial manner. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Anyone online?
Take that as a no?
No one there. I'm just trying
Okay.
to find the right screen here. There we go. Nobody's
Awesome.
calling.
Thank you. Trying to be patient. I think we have no presentations today. So new business, 238 Deer Street, request for a 15-minute parking space by a butter. Can we get a motion for discussion at least?
So moved.
Second?
Does anyone have any comment? And particularly, Eric, do you have anything to share with us about this?
Yes, this is a request that has come in from the construction company, management company that's putting those new micro apartments where the Stady used to be on Deer Street. And they'll have, I forget the number of units there, but they've requested a 15-minute space out front because they see the need for their tenants to be, having a place to come in, drop off for groceries or wherever loading and unloading items they may have to need. So they have requested a 15-minute space out front. Currently, there are two spaces out front. One is a handicap spot, and the other one is a regular metered parking spot. And so there is no, with those new apartments or condominiums as they are, there are no on-site parking spaces. And, they're required to find parking off-site somewhere. That was part of their approval.
Was there any discussion of drop-off, loading, unloading when this was permitted?
That discussion was brought up at TAC and at the planning board. And there was conditions put on it. I don't recall exactly what those conditions were at this point. I think that's why, we have a sample motion is to refer to us and we can report back and find out what those conditions were and how they were supposed to handle parking.
That'd be helpful, I think.
Yep.
I think in the past, when these requests come up for 15-minute parking, we talked about looking at the whole scope of the 15-minute parking places downtown. So I would like to do that before we before we make an approval of this. But this is going to go up for your review, right?
Yes.
Staff review first.
You want to study all the 15-minute parking
Well, we talked
spaces?
about that some time ago, looking at, because requests come in as these businesses open and, whatever happens, a bank or something. So we talked about looking at where the 15-minute parking places are, where it's appropriate, and where we can move things because we have moved 15-minute parking places. I don't want to make it a big discussion, but I think an overview
Yep.
is a good idea.
Yep.
So I'm Are you making a proposal to link the review of 15-minute parking to the discussion of this request?
No, I'm just asking that that become, well, actually, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Because it is a new request, and I think that we should look at what's going on downtown with 15-minute parking places. Because this could be, with all of the development down there, this could be a request that comes again and again.
So one of the things that you may recall, when this proposal, when the development proposal came through initially, it was billed as a micro apartments that would not require parking. There was a waiver granted, and to accommodate parking at this point seems counter to what the intent of the approval was originally. So I think it's worthy to look at, yeah, I agree with you. It's worth revisiting what 15-minute parking is intended for. If you know, in my mind, it makes sense for banks and coffee shops and things like that that have quick come and go type of thing. I know the parking director feels that they're really not worth, they're not appropriate because they don't manage parking right, because they're abused. They don't, it's free parking for the most part, and it gets abused. So I think it's worth having that discussion, Mary Lou. I agree. So you're linking the two. It would be worth, I think, if planning could, summarize what the conditions were associated with that site approval.
Yep, good idea.
And then that we could, have a
Yeah.
bigger discussion relative to that.
Yeah,
But,
so
part of me feels, I felt like it was not necessarily acknowledging the potential impact of the development up front. So,
It's happening. Yeah. So,
so I second
make a
your
motion?
Yeah, you would make a motion to modify the.
okay. So let's see. I make a motion that we look at this request in the scope of 15-minute parking places throughout downtown and get advice from the planning department.
Yeah, and report back as well relative to the conditions of approval, and what the representation at the
Continue.
time was.
Sounds good. Okay.
Do we need to vote on the amendment
I
first?
second that motion. Yes.
Does anyone have any comments on the amendment?
Will that also include Eric's TAC review that you guys talked about briefly before?
I think so. I think that's when planning,
Okay.
the reference to planning.
No
Yeah.
further questions.
Correct?
Yes, yeah, our TAC recommendations go
They
to planning board.
Were the conditions in that discussion?
Hmm.
Do you guys have any questions or comments about the amendment? I'm a little wary about, I don't know how big of an effort studying all the 15-minute parking in all of downtown is. I don't, that might be, I don't want to burden the staff with
Right, right.
we have a maybe time-sensitive, maybe not time-sensitive request and a planning-esque sort of vision. I think they're both very, I think it's a valid thing. I guess I'd like to know from staff how much effort,
Yeah.
if it's realistic for us to, is that,
Well, does Ben have an answer? How many?
Yeah, that,
How many parking spots are downtown?
Then you want to come up to the,
yeah, because that was one of my questions was going to be how far of an area do we make this? Do we just
Yeah.
look at this area right around here on Deer Street and Bridge Street, or do we expand this to a citywide
I
study?
guess my understanding of what you were saying, and maybe I misunderstood, was that more like, how is it that 15-minute parking plays into our parking inventory? What are the criteria to, when we would grant it, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate?
Yes. Yes, because we've talked about that before, when small businesses have asked to have parking, 15-minute parking places changed from one side of the street to another. And, we've brought this discussion up before, but we haven't really clarified the criteria and where the parking places, 15-minute parking places are now.
and do we have that, do we know, do we have a policy on 15-minute parking spaces?
Not that I'm aware of, not a flat
And do we-
citywide policy. I think they've been judged on a one-off basis in the past.
Do you have a sense of how many 15-minute breaks?
Roughly 25. I'm actually literally in the middle of walking the entire city and mapping those out so we can re-up our maps. Not just those, but all the spaces, because the numbers I have are one or two off here or there, street by street, depending on changes over time.
That's the whole town?
Right.
That's the whole town, the whole
Correct.
city's 25?
Correct.
Oh, that's not a lot, okay.
No, but it should be understood that, I mean, your average price on a parking session is a little over, close to $4.50 citywide, and it's 39 cents in these locations, and they're impossible to adjudicate. You have to stand there and wait for somebody to longer than 15 minutes, and I don't allow my staff to stand and wait. They're not even allowed when they look at a parking session to see how much time is left on a parking session for any vehicle. They just move on if it's got a green light, even if it's 5 seconds left, because I don't want the practice of what's called vulturing to take place. We don't have bonuses for the number of citations people write for that exact reason. So we don't stand and watch the 15-minute spaces. It's not highest and best use of time, so they basically are nearly impossible to enforce. They are abused quite a bit. The data show that it's certainly not highest and best use of this inventory, considering the incredibly high demand and the squeeze we have in terms of overall inventory over the course of the last years that I've been here. It's been reduced year after year with certain programs or discontinuing leases people aren't using, so like the CCC lot, things like that. So we're kind of moving in, a difficult direction when it comes to supply versus demand, and when it comes up to moving a space or something like that, if it doesn't affect the overall inventory on a street, like if a street already has 2 of these spaces, and we've been dealing with that for X number of years or whatever, if we move one across the street, I'm not generally opposed to leaving the population the way it is if we have one. In this case, you've got a total of 12 spaces, and that to service that entire front facing. There's two major buildings. There's another one being built across the street. That one has its own parking, but there will be visitor parking. Foundry is at 85% on your Thursday afternoon counts, which is when everybody shows up to work when they're planning on skipping Friday. So an 85% is what you look for as a maximum, or as your target. So Foundry is essentially before even the hotel goes in and before the 51 units across the street, and certainly including these 21 here, and guests associated with the one right up on Maplewood, and then a new hotel going in at on the opposite end of 111 down there on Rains and Vaughn. And then, of course, the loss of 250-some spaces of inventory coming with the Sheridan project. I am loath to, convert a space in a 11 or 12 space environment to a 15 that we know is not going to be highly used, let alone abused at every chance. Peter made a great point that we discussed this with this group. The idea was to engineer the social process of not having a vehicle by making micro units. I personally did not see that application successful in California when they decided not to build parking. What that did was it created a situation where the parking that was there was 3 times as expensive and far more difficult for the average person to find and use. So I spoke out against not having any on-site parking for this project, and I think my warning was that the garage would be full by the time it was done, and I was essentially correct. And I agree with Peter that we tried to talk about this ahead of time and to retroactively try to do a favor for folks that we had made mention that this would likely be an issue, might not be sending the right message.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments?
Another comment I have is, in this area, when the traffic study was conducted for the parking garage originally, it looked at all this development in the area, and the projections were that due to the traffic volumes on Deer Street in the future, that we would probably need to remove parking on Deer Street in order to add another travel lane there to accommodate. So it looks like, the parking could even further decrease going forward on the street.
Thank you, Eric. Got that part.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to request staff to review and report back, including a review of the planning and permitting effort and conditions associated and policies overall with
15 minutes.
implementing 15-minute spaces. Does that reasonably accurately reflect everyone's
Right.
hopes and intentions for this motion?
Right. And if
Yeah.
Ben has more information for us coming,
That can go in this staff report? Okay.
Yeah, it may not be next
Yeah.
month, but
Okay.
I think we can.
good.
When are they anticipated to be occupied? I don't know who would know that.
Their occupation, the occupancy approval is not contingent upon this.
No, I'm just curious for,
I'm not sure. I know they're trying
They're-
to do occupancy.
Yeah, any day now, I think
Yeah.
they're close.
okay.
One final point, we are receiving applications for monthly parking from this group and the group across the street. We have a wait list
Yeah.
at Foundry, and it's fairly deep. We don't have a wait list at Hanover any longer, but that's not a viable option for some folks. But it's important to note that we are having to tell people we don't have space for them in terms of monthly parking.
Yeah, I heard that.
Okay. Let's vote on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Motion carries. We have no old business. Police monthly crash report.
Sure. For the month of February, 78 total motor vehicle crashes were reported. 34 of those 78 were state reportable crashes. We had no crashes involving bicyclists and 2 crashes, it would appear, involving pedestrians.
Any questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. As we're going into, we did have warm weather last week, so I saw a lot of cyclists and scooters everywhere. So I think the police department usually does some sort of signage, education, springtime, bikes, scooters, slow down, because there's a lot of fast moving.
Yeah.
Sorry, Peter, I am going to bring this up again. There's a lot of speeding traffic.
I was teasing you on that.
I know. So I'm just asking about the education component of it. I think in the past, the police
I
department
don't
has put
know,
up.
with respect to signage, we have a variable message board that we.
That's what I mean.
That we move around town. It's still in winter storage, if you will. We haven't got it out yet, because there was white stuff on my windshield this morning a little bit, so we haven't got that out, but we'll be getting that out in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, certainly with the warm weather, a couple of those warm days, we've seen it as well.
Yeah.
It goes from 0 to everybody's out.
I know.
Whether that's
Kids zooming down Lincoln.
on the
the
electric
middle school.
bikes, yeah, for certain.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
Sure. Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else on this? Okay, outdoor dining season.
Yes, so we are currently taking applications in. We have about 16 so far, and looking to start it up on May 1st. So the barriers will be placed out in the streets for the parking spaces last week, April, this month. Coming up quick.
Is that more or less than last year?
So far, it's less, but we always get some people at the last minute, or they see that it's happening, and or the warm weather hits, and then they say, "Oh yeah, we'd like to do this." So there is no cutoff on the applications; they can come in at any time.
Right. I think the rules got tightened up this year over the past couple of years as far as space and where they can impact with outdoor parking.
Yeah, I don't know if it was changed much this year, but last year there were significant changes.
Yeah, so it's pretty much the same as last year.
Yeah.
Good.
Roadway construction projects update.
Yes. So Maplewood Ave Bridge. Part 2, it will be closed down in both directions starting next week until we can get one lane open again in June. And so it will be a complete closure with detours for the next couple months. Then in June, it will open up to one lane, and when it does open up to one lane, it will be inbound only. It will not be alternating traffic, it'll just be inbound traffic. So outbound traffic will need to use Market Street or other ways to get out of the city.
Till October.
Yes, till October.
Throughout, pedestrian access will be maintained.
Pedestrian and bikes will be able to use the one lane And even when it's fully closed, bikes and pedestrians will still be able to get through.
Yep.
There's not vehicles. Other than that, Islington Street will be starting up again for its final phase in completion of that work. That will include new signal equipment at the Congress Street intersection. And we also will be finishing up the Bartlett Street work coming into town on Bartlett Street. That'll get a final paving. And let's see what else we got.
Willard.
Willard Ave,
Yep, some final work in Willard.
utility
Union.
work, Union Street,
Um,
finishing up that project.
Yep.
And, the traffic signal at Middle Street, Summer Street, and Miller Ave will be replaced in its entirety this year.
Yep. Greenleaf Ave sidewalk will be installed.
Yes, there's,
Lafayette Road sidewalk will be installed.
Good.
Sound wall closures, isn't one of the ramps closing?
yes, the sound walls are under construction right now, and
Southbound exit 7 will be shut down for,
Is it just
You
the
remember?
on-ramp?
yes,
We
just the
still
on.
figured that out, right?
Okay.
Yeah,
Is that going to conflict with the Maplewood detour?
no,
Okay.
they'll still be able to,
traffic will go down to Submarine Way and get on the bypass.
yeah,
I guess I don't mean
Bypass.
directly.
yeah.
I mean,
Everything, all of this will impact everything.
Interrelated.
Yeah. Be busy. Can I just ask what the Congress Street intersection changes will be?
Primarily, it's widening the sidewalk along the historical center, that corner over there, making those
Oh, yeah,
sidewalks
where-
wider. Not narrowing the
This is-
street, but cutting back behind it where the plantings are, and that making the sidewalk area bigger. Some new signal heads, relocating one of the mast arms to get a better corner at in front of Jumpin' Jays, a little bit more room there. Changing some of the pedestrian buttons around. Right now, some of them are, 2 of them on one post, and we'll be separating those, 10 feet apart where possible to bring it up to ADA standards. And repaving the intersection, improving the drainage and, a lot of the patching. that's been going
Eventually,
on.
the section of Congress Street from Fleet to Maplewood will be reworked.
Yeah.
As part of the Fleet Street project. That's anticipated a year from now. That'll widen the sidewalk along that
Further
section.
down, yeah.
Further down.
Right. So the initial one is right where Jumpin' Jays is at that corner, which we think we've talked about.
Yes.
Okay, good. As long as you keep that yield to pedestrian flashing light.
Yes, that will be there.
Thank you.
anything else on the construction projects?
I think we caught them all.
Okay.
For additional information, the website has a list of the projects and additional detail. Contact information, you can be put on email blasts for updates on the projects. If residents are interested, they can go online, register, and just pay attention to what the projects are doing. So,
One other update is that at Kate and Bartlett Street, we did add another RRFB by Papa Wheelies on the other side of the bridge, so that will flash when people are crossing underneath the bridge. And the stop signs there have been upgraded to the flashing LED border stop signs on all approaches. And we are making progress once again on the grant for the railroad bridge. So from federal,
again?
Federal Railroad is moving forward again with the grant. So we should be getting that money this year.
Great.
Big change.
I'm holding my breath.
Ben Hollow Street sidewalk parking. A nice picture in our packet.
So this is a concern that has been brought to us by Massimo's Restaurant, and a lot of times they get deliveries on Penn Hollow Street, and the trucks like to make use of the pedestrian ramp at the corner of Custom House Lane and drive right up on the sidewalk, as you can see in this picture. Makes it very difficult for pedestrians to get through, and it's damaging and hitting his sign, and putting a lot of wear and tear on the brick sidewalk. So looking to see what we can do to keep the trucks off. Maybe that's some type of bollard or granite bench or something to keep traffic off the sidewalk, but still allowing us to maintain the sidewalk and, with the sidewalk
Yeah.
plows and snow removal.
Are they doing outdoor dining?
Yeah.
They have not submitted their application yet, but I expect they will.
Yeah.
It's a short term.
Yeah.
Discretionary.
Series 2. Series has outdoor.
Series has submitted their application, but we haven't seen one yet from Massimo.
Any miscellaneous comments?
Go for it, Eric.
Nope, no other miscellaneous.
Mary Lou, do you have anything?
I don't.
So disappointed. All right, well, I welcome a motion to adjourn.
Second.
No, I welcome it, I can't make it.
Oh, well, I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
It sounded very welcoming, too.